The Vacant Lot. Chapter 1. Shadows in the Yard. I stepped off the train and onto the worn platform, the familiar scent of old wood and stale air filling my lungs as I made my way through the quiet town. It had been years since I'd set foot here. Not since childhood days spent exploring dusty back alleys and whispering secrets with friends in hushed tones under moonlit skies. Now, I was returning for the funeral of a friend who'd left too soon, an echo of the lives we all thought we'd never leave behind. The somber occasion cast a melancholy over me as I navigated streets lined with houses that looked unchanged but somehow older. As I approached my childhood home, something caught my eye. The vacant lot across the street was no longer vacant. The overgrown weeds and brambles had given way to neatly trimmed grass, each blade of green perfectly aligned. The once crumbling fence now sported a fresh coat of paint in an unnatural shade of white. As night began to descend, a lone figure appeared among the shrubs, illuminated only by the street lamp's soft glow. He moved with deliberate care, his silhouette hunched over, tending to what looked like a garden amidst the darkness. Curiosity took hold as I watched from my living room window. A man, gaunt and thin, dressed in black, worked diligently under the cover of night. In the days that followed, I found myself drawn back to that lot more often than was rational. Shadows moved within its borders after dark, and whispers in the wind carried on the breeze. The figure remained elusive, but a sense of unease crept into my daily routine. One morning, I awoke to find shredded remnants of black fabric tangled atop the fence, eerily reminiscent of clothes from decades past. Another night brought me out into the cool autumn air. I edged closer, heart pounding in anticipation. The caretaker worked with methodical carelessness now, as if trying not to draw attention. A gust of wind carried a note, torn and fluttering, towards my feet. It read, "You're watched." A chill ran down my spine. I turned to flee, but froze at the sound of rustling behind me. The figure stood inches from where I had just been, eyes fixed upon mine before vanishing into shadows. Days blurred into weeks as I wrestled with this newfound unease. The local police dismissed it all when I reported the occurrences. An overactive imagination brought about by grief, they said with sympathetic clucks. Yet that night, as sleep eluded me, I heard a knock. I peeked through my curtains to find him, standing in the lot center under the street lamp, staring directly into my window. A sense of dread settled heavy within me. The next day, more torn fabric adorned the fence. Another note arrived on my doorstep. "We meet tonight." I armed myself with a flashlight and ventured out as dusk approached. The caretaker vanished at the edge of the yard when he spotted me, but not before catching a glimpse of something odd. A fleeting image that could have been my imagination or a trick of the flickering light. Yet it lingered, an ethereal figure with sunken eyes peering back. Returning home, I discovered Sarah's journal buried beneath a pile of papers on my desk, the cover adorned with strange symbols resembling ancient runes. They seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy in the fading light. A shiver ran down my spine as I opened it. The first entry dated from decades ago. Children playing in this very yard, laughter echoing into the night. Then silence. Chapter 2. Mysterious Correspondence. The letters arrived unexpectedly, each referencing a childhood memory etched into my mind. They came without warning, penned by the caretaker. Each missive spoke of the past I had almost forgotten. Lost trinkets reappearing in the lot, our hideout beneath the willow tree. Events from Sarah's journal, now seemingly coming to life. The words stirred a tempest within me. They were more than just reminiscence. My best friend Emily stopped by for a visit and found me agitated. "Sarah, you're spinning tales in grief," she cautioned, shaking her head as if trying to rattle sense from my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Another night found me drawn back, flashlight clutched tightly, and this time he didn't disappear into shadows. In a burst of courage or lunacy, I ventured closer. "Who are you?" My voice cracked as it left lips. He stood motionless amidst the neat rows of flowers that seemed to glow in the moonlight. His face was gaunt, skin stretched over sharp bone. "I'm tending," he rasped, eyes sunken. The weight of his gaze made me retreat back into the shadows. A new note awaited upon my return home. Sarah's secret garden blooms again. I couldn't shake the conviction that I'd seen more in those eyes than a mere caretaker's remorse. Days passed with an undercurrent of dread, each glance towards the lot drawing out my breath. In the evening, I found the journal missing, replaced by a single sheet of paper bearing only, "You knew them." That night, beneath the willow tree, where so many laughter-filled hours had taken place, I finally confronted him. Emptiness stared back as he emerged from the dark, black fabric clinging to his skeletal form. I retreated into my car, unable to look away from those hollow orbs. The man reached us with a swift grace and leaned against the vehicle, face inches from mine in the moonlight. "You were one of them," he breathed before vanishing like smoke. The next morning, my doorbell rang. A letter awaited, penned in crimson ink. Their lives were cut short. It spoke of children playing, torn apart by unfathomable darkness on a fateful night. My mind recoiled at the horror hinted within the words. Each day felt like an eternity as I pieced together the dark tale from fragments in Sarah's journal and my own memories. Beneath the willow, amidst blooming flowers, I found it. A macabre shrine of photographs and personal items. The man emerged once more. Eyes ablaze with an unspoken sorrow, he motioned me to follow. In that moment, something shifted. I knew nothing would be the same when I left this place again. Chapter 3. The Truth in Twilight. Dawn had just begun to claw at the horizon as I stared upon a mangled pile of what once held life. Remains of children lost in a night long buried. The caretaker stood before them, face obscured by an upturned collar. "I've waited," he said, voice barely audible. My gaze fell upon the willow's gnarled roots. A mass grave. In that moment I understood. Emily entered and found me crouched amidst Sarah's life, ashen. He beckoned us to follow him into the heart of the lot, where an abyss waited. "You're part of it now," he hissed over his shoulder. Beneath the weeping willow, our childhood sanctuary revealed its twisted beauty, a maze of bones and mementos. The caretaker spoke, voice heavy with remorse. "Children playing in an fated night, torn from life. I watched as their souls found peace, only to be bound by some dark force." His words tumbled forth like confession, a tale of loss and regret. A gust of wind carried me into the void where they lay, faces aglow. Emily pulled me free just in time. We fled together, but at home, more letters awaited. "You played with fire that night," this final one read. I turned to my friend and whispered, "It's not over." Eyes ablaze within the darkness bore into my soul. His form began to fade before disappearing altogether. I stared upon their faces etched in the photographs. Emily's, Sarah's, mine. It was then we realized the truth. Those children weren't the only ones taken that fateful night. And so I dug, beneath our sanctuary of laughter and innocence, as the sun retreated beyond the horizon, uncovering a grave not meant to stay buried.